I think that was very insightful, especially I liked your graph with showing how things don't translate well from the more typical population in the study to the others. So our next speaker is John Ngai, and John's run the NIH Brain Initiative for the past year. And I should probably apologize for my Stanford background, since John was at UC Berkeley for quite a while before taking over this the Brain Initiative. I'm looking forward to his presentation and understanding what things are doing. Go ahead, John.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to give this short talk on the Brain Initiative and how we feel that we can provide tools and resources to enable a basic discovery. So let me just give you a very brief background on the Brain Initiative and attempt to put this in context for today's session. So the mission of the Brain Research through Advancing Innovative Neurotechnologies, the Brain Initiative, is to revolutionize our understanding of the human brain by accelerating the development and application of innovative technologies. This initiative was announced by the White House in 2013, with the first awards being made in 2014, and represents a partnership between 5 U.S. federal agencies and private foundations. The NIH efforts have been guided by 2 strategic plans that were commissioned by Dr. Francis Collins, director of the NIH. The first was issued in 2014 by the Brain 2025 in the Brain 2025 report, and later a touch-up of that strategic plan in 2019 as embodied by the Brain 2.0 reports. Now, from the NIH perspective, our goal is to develop and apply new tools for understanding how neural circuits underlie complex behaviors, both in health and in disease. And to achieve these goals, I think it's important for us to leverage the innovations to enable new discoveries about neural circuit function, to use these discoveries as a foundation for new therapeutic strategies for human brain disorders, and very importantly, to disseminate and democratize these technologies for basic discovery and clinical applications. Now, I think the success of the Brain Initiative to date can be attributed in large part to the thoughtful and visionary strategic plan that's embodied in the Brain 2025 report. This was a report that was assembled by a group that was led by Drs. Corey Bargman from Rockefeller University and Bill Newsom from Stanford University. And they touched on 7 key areas for us to concentrate on as the initiative was being rolled out. The first was to discover the diversity of cell types in the brain, mammalian brain and other brains. In other words, to create a parts list. The second is to create maps of multiple scales, or a wiring diagram. And then to continue the development of technology for both monitoring as well as modulating activity in these circuits. And then to base all that we do in a solid grounding of theory and data, and ultimately to move our knowledge into the realm of human neuroscience, and finally to integrate all these approaches together. So this was the starting out point. And the point I'd like to make here is that the tools and resources being developed by the Brain Initiative really can serve as a foundation for basic discovery, leading ultimately into clinical use. Now, one of the major goals of the Brain Initiative in particular, but also, of course, NIH in general, is to find new opportunities for interventions. The tools and resources supported by the Brain Initiative provide a framework for disease-focused research and are already leading to the identification of molecules, cells, and circuits affected in neurologic and neuropsychiatric disorders. We're seeing advances in the development of closed-loop or adaptive deep brain stimulators, the invention and application of sensory and motor neural prostheses, and ultimately we hope to push these technologies into the development of future targeted molecular and gene therapies. So what I'd like to do here is just to kind of give a few examples for how the resources being developed by the Brain Initiative might help in other fields seeking to find new cures for human brain disorders and other disorders as well. So the work from the Brain's 7 priority research areas, again, are providing foundational knowledge that can be used to inform strategies for treating human brain disorders. And these resources include not only information on specific cells and neural circuits, but also tools with which to interrogate and modulate them, plus increasingly rich data sets that can be mined for specific disease-driven research questions. So I just want to give you one example that's ongoing in the Brain Initiative. And this centers around the Brain Initiative Cell Census Network, whose goal is to create comprehensive brain cell atlases. So this is one of the larger and more coordinated parts of the Brain Initiative. It's composed of a number of competitively awarded projects that are focused on developing and using a variety of techniques, including molecular analyses, connectivity, physiology, and the like, to create a comprehensive catalog of brain cell types, primarily in the mouse, but also moving into other mammalian species, including humans and non-human primates. So the project is anchored around 3 very large U19 production grants that are focused primarily on studying the mouse brain, together with a series of UO1 grants looking at the connectivity that the identified cell types might make, as well as a set of complementary efforts, somewhat smaller but now growing in scope, focusing on developing information about brain cell types in the human brain as well as non-human brain. And actually the comparative analysis is really giving us some very interesting lessons about the principles underlying the specification of brain cell types in mammals. We also have a set of technology grants aimed at developing scalable tools and assays for obtaining more information at a lower cost and at a greater speed. All these efforts are coordinated through this brain cell data center, this U24, which coordinates the activities of these large consortium, and together facilitate the porting of this information through a variety of brain data repositories that I show here, ultimately for the use and reuse by the larger research and education communities. And you can learn more about the Brain Initiative Cell Census Network at this website here. So this is just one example of a brain resource providing the ground truth about brain cell diversity and properties of brain cell types. And I just want to highlight what we're providing here right now in terms of data resources. Again, this is all coordinated by the Brain Cell Data Center here shown in the middle. On the left, I'm showing you 3 brain cell repositories for transcriptomic and epigenomic information, molecular information, imaging information, as well as neurophysiology. And on the right, there's a growing effort here to stand up analytical tools that will allow the general research community to use this information for specific projects, including disease-specific projects. So this is just a flagship example of how data are being coordinated and integrated across multiple modalities in this Brain Initiative Cell Census Network. But this, in fact, fits into the larger context of brain data resources, which I'll just schematize in the next slide. So we've made a concerted effort to make the coordination and availability of data a key mission of the Brain Initiative. We have a series of projects that involve data archives, software tools, and data standards as an infrastructure. And then we're also feeding into this data from different projects. I just mentioned to you the Brain Initiative Cell Census Network. We also have a series of large projects aimed at understanding neural circuits, which are also feeding information into this framework. We have an RFA for secondary data analysis and archiving of data, and the brain has done its best to be out front in terms of making sure that the data that are being produced are actually freely available for sharing by the larger community. So this is just a very high-level overview of the different kinds of data resources we have made available to the community using data from these different modalities. Now, Dr. Woodall's talk was really quite interesting to me because we have been considering issues of engagement and inclusion of communities that traditionally have been underserved and underrepresented by the biomedical community. And this just brings me very briefly to the issue of neuroethics. In the Brain Initiative, we have taken the stance that we need to consider very carefully the impact and the ramifications of what we do on society in general. We have a neuroethics working group, and together our group has come up with a series of neuroethics guiding principles that include, as in any case involving human research, issues around safety and privacy, because this involves typically data or research that involves the human brain and therefore the human mind. We also have issues surrounding agency, malign and dual use, and ultimately we need to be very mindful of how we engage the public and be attuned to their needs, and to really show the public and receive input from the public about the benefits of the technologies and resources we're developing as they might be offset by some of the risks. And ultimately, we need to democratize all of our technologies for the benefit of all. And I think here, again, per Dr. Woodall's terrific presentation, we really need to be mindful of engaging the communities that have been traditionally underserved and underrepresented as true partners in this endeavor, so that we can make sure that what we develop is developed for the benefit of all. So I will just wrap up by calling attention to our upcoming Brain Initiative Investigators meeting coming up in June. It's virtual again. It's a terrific opportunity for anybody interested in neuroscience to join. You do not have to be a Brain Initiative funded researcher. We have a couple of deadlines coming up. I encourage you out there to take a look, have your students and trainees take a look as well. We have a great set of poster sessions and opportunity to give research highlight talks. So with that, I'll just thank, excuse me, the many people that are behind the Brain Initiative among this NIH staff, and more information can be found about the Brain Initiative at this website here. I'd be happy to stop and take a few questions and look forward to the general discussion.